Welcome to episode 435 of the Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to Quique Belenguer, Behavioral Economics Global Lead at Bbva. Ready? Let's get started.
You are listening to the Brainy Business Podcast, where we dig into the psychology of why people buy and help you incorporate behavioral economics into your business, making it more brain-friendly. Now here's your host, Melina Palmer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melina Palmer, and I want to welcome you to the Brainy Business Podcast. In today's conversation, I'm joined by Quique Belenguer, who is the global lead of behavioral economics for Bbva. And I really love the theme of our conversation today. As we were preparing to record, Quique mentioned to me that while preparing for the show, he asked himself, what would be most interesting and valuable to Melina and the audience of the Brainy Business? A very behavioral science type of question to ask. And while we could have talked about the results they're getting in the customer-facing application of behavioral economics at the bank over the 6 years they have had their program and team, he thought that the best approach would be to talk about the way they've set up their team internally over those years, what's worked and what they've shifted away from, tips from others looking to start incorporating behavioral economics in their organizations, and some insights into how they've seen success working with other departments. Knowing I get this type of question all the time, I jumped at the opportunity to feature this discussion on the show, and he definitely did not disappoint. Whatever industry you're in, however big your organization, whether or not anyone is interested in behavioral economics at your company yet, I assure you that you will benefit from the insights in this conversation. Really quickly, before we get into it, I want to be sure you know that there are links in the show notes for my top related past episodes and books, ways to get in touch with Quique and myself, and more. It's all within the app you're listening to and at thebrainybusiness.com/435. Now let's jump right in. Quique Belenguer, welcome to the Brainy Business Podcast.
Hi, thank you.
I know. I think people are used to me always laughing when I say someone's name because I always like to ask, just for those who were listening, and I will always ask people to pronounce their name the way they would pronounce it. That's what I ask people to do, especially because I have so many international guests with diverse backgrounds, and so pronunciations are different. And sometimes it's pretty close to what I was thinking. I would say yours is as well. But then I definitely get in my head about how to say it. And I over enunciate a little bit in a way that feels totally silly, but I just allow myself to laugh about it. And I did my best. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I mean, it was one of the best pronunciations out of Spain that I've heard so far. So congratulations, Belenguer. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And we'll just say Quique from now on, because that is easy.
Okay.
Well, Quique, we met a couple months ago at the CBO Summit in Toronto, along with several other guests that I've had on the show, and I've said, everybody there is there's so many amazing people in this room, and I can't wait to be able to share your stories of what you're doing in behavioral science. And so for everyone who doesn't know you yet, can you share a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Okay. So, basically I work in the behavioral economics unit at Bbva, a Spanish bank, but we are based, so we have offices in different countries in Latin America and Spain and Turkey. And I've been doing this for 6 years now, more than 6 years now. And, it's been changing since we started. Behavioral economics per se in 2018 was different from what we are doing today. But, I've been lucky enough to be from the beginning, early times of the unit. So I've been working from the parts of training and trying to share with everyone what's behavioral science and why is this so interesting and amazing. And I'm lucky enough as well to be today working on more specific and concrete elements. Like we are now part of the projects of the bank when they develop new products. when we develop new products, when we develop new campaigns, new digital experiences, new protocols for branches. So it's been a long way. And all those little things that we've done in this path has helped to be where we are now. That means working in projects, working campaigns, really around the value proposition of the bank.
Yeah. Well, I know we talked a bit about having our conversation be looking at that kind of interpersonal, developing a team, a unit inside of the organization, and how that can kind of work. As people, I get asked all the time. I don't know if you get asked all the time, but like saying, okay, we want to have behavioral science be more of what we're doing in the organization. Where do we even start, right? What would we do? Can you share a little bit about the journey? I'm assuming there's been some evolutions over the years of the way that you've approached things and things that have worked and maybe glad you learned from them, but moved on from.
Like our do's and don'ts, it's not that they don't work. They didn't work for us, or they didn't work as we thought. So I guess like everyone, we started with the last mile, like tweaking emails or screens. And that was nice because you are really close to the impact that you can measure. However, like we were saying before the recording, we in the bank, we're with an agile structure. That means that we are structured by projects. So there's no behavioral economics unit, like the nudge unit, which you're a team, which you get a challenge, you research, you do your interventions, and you measure them and then give back to your stakeholder. That's not our case. We have to work within the project. That means working together with design, with the marketers, with the business analysts, with the product owners, with the data team. And that requires a different approach. It's not like, hey, this is my idea and solution, let me test it. It's more about how can I convince you that this is a nice way to think about the problem. And actually, that's been something that with time has come to be one of the reasons why they involve us in the project. And that means reframe the challenge of the team from a behavioral angle. What do I mean with this? If the team is working, imagine like launching a new product, normally they are more focused on how we get this product to be on this date and meet these requirements. And we are there to say, hey, what are the behaviors that you want to change? Because if you're launching a new product, are you expecting them to get out of your habit because it's something they're going to use on a daily basis or weekly basis versus just one shot? And if that's the behavior you want to change, how are you putting on the table like different elements related with the decision, like motivation or frictions and things like that? So as you see, I don't come with the solution. I come with the right questions. The right questions. Let's be more humble. With the right questions for behavior. And with that, we can create a frame in which we can all create the solution. So I would never go. We've done this in the past and it didn't work. Go into the design team, say, hey, this is the solution. I don't know, imagine like something really simple and done. Include a social group. They are part of the solution team. It's better to say, hey, I think that in this case, people don't know what to do. They don't have a reference. And we have this tool of using a social norm as a reference. When people don't know what to do, they will look at others and say, hey, there's a lot of people doing this. It may be good for me. So with that, we discuss. And it's not me saying, hey, put this phrase. Because maybe it can be even like not the best option. And the design team can come, well, with that idea of being social, what do you think about this other thing that involves, a change in the visuals or a change in the way we approach the client through the funnel? So this is a little bit more challenging, as I said, because we don't own the solution, but I feel it's way more rewarding because we are creating these frameworks in which the whole team is thinking. Different approaches. I know that all the teams are not working in the same way, but for us, this has been our journey. It's been it's not been easy. It's been hard, but we need to link a lot of people. You need to sell them that what you know, it's valuable and meaningful, and they need to listen to you. And sometimes that means slowing down the delivery of some of the things that we create, the digital experiences that we create. But that's what we do, and it has been pretty successful. We grew, and now, as I said, we have a really good relationship with the design team, with marketers, and the business teams, and we are involved in the key projects of the bank. So after 6 years, we moved from just training all the teams on biases and heuristics to, hey, we need to understand the decision that's underlying your product or your experience, and with that, shaping the final solution with everyone else.
Yeah. I love that. And here for the Brainy Business, we're definitely all about the asking good questions, being thoughtful in that process, and helping, whether it's IKEA effect or whatever else, when people get to be a part of that solution, for one, more likely to buy in and be advocates of it, of course. But also, like you were saying, is you only know what you know, they know what they know. And if you're able to say, hey, like social norms, like you were saying, just use that example, can be really valuable. And maybe you would have said, so we should phrase it this way, right? Social norms matter. We should say that 90% of people, blah, right? We should do it this way. And if you would have just prescribed and said, this is how you should do it, then it just sort of gets stuck there and you're fighting over one particular phrase. Whereas if you say, looking at the behavior that we've been talking about, social norms feels like a really great tactic to use. And there's so many ways to do it. How might you go about implementing this idea of social norms? And like you said, then they can talk about something you didn't even realize existed, but is something they've been dying to try, or that they're really excited about, or that they just heard this other team did something. And it gets to revive. They're more excited about it. They're more invested in that process. And it just is more likely to come up with, better, more exciting pieces that everybody's really rallying behind.
Yeah, the better solutions, and as well, easier to implement. Right? Don't get me wrong, it's not that technically it's easier. But when you try to fight for the space of attention within a project, that's like sterile use of time. If I get everyone to share my thinking on, hey, this problem is based on references, and if they agree we can go in the same direction, it's easier than say, no, I say social norm, the design team say, no, this is about something else. And then we can even run A/B test, but hey, it's a lot better if we create a better solution, faster solution, and then we run A/B test. And if we are wrong, because when I say social norm, it's not that I'm super sure this is going to work. This is my theory. So far, and maybe someone has like this super cool framework of behavioral science that you can like link problems and use solution that they work always. What I hear is that most times we have a general understanding of what's happening, but the intervention sometimes works, sometimes don't work. So if you're pushing for the solution, you test it and they don't work, it's like, you are not right. And I don't want to be there. I want to be like, hey, I have this idea. Let's work together on this idea and see if it works. If it doesn't work, everyone feels part of the solution, so we can iterate it. So I don't have to fight again to say, hey, it was not social norms. It was something else. Let's reassess the research that we had done or whatever. So we are all part of the same thing. And as I said, like for me, that's something key that I learned through the years. And I don't get tired to say to other people when they ask me, I want to create a behavioral science team, or I want to do behavioral science within the company. Like, sure, but try to understand where you are and how you are related to other teams. Because when you get there saying, I'm the super expert of behavioral science, and I know I do research and interventions on measuring through experiments, you may find some of the people doing the same thing in the organization. It's not things you do, it's how you think about those things.
Similar to what you're saying, I have people ask me all the time, right, about the roles don't exist. How do I go find the behavioral science role in the organization? Like, who's hiring behavioral economists, behavioral scientists, setting up nudge units, and how do I get that one spot? And I always tell people, yes, there are more roles these days. There are way more people getting degrees in behavioral science. And so it's, harder, and there's a lot of competition for those. But there are still so many organizations that don't yet know that this exists, and they wouldn't be hiring for it. But there's such an opportunity there if you know that you love the behavioral aspect of, employee relations or marketing or design or brand strategy or product development or finance, right? You can always be incorporating the behavioral science in and building it out as part of a role and helping people to be part of it and see the value of it, kind of organically growing it. And then when people realize the success you're having, you can be kind of educating along the way, but at the aspect of accomplishing something, right? And then maybe it turns into a formal title or a role or something. But if you just love the work, you can do that no matter what. You can bring it to any role or department. What are your thoughts on that, knowing that you, of course, had a team officially at the
bank? We have a team, and it's a big team, but I completely agree with that. And you can see it sometimes. Sometimes you can see it when you talk with other people, and makes you think sometimes that where we are is based on our luck. What I mean with this, that if you see the different teams around the world, some of them they're sitting like us with marketing, some of them they're sitting with data or with compliance. So it's about finding the opportunity to use our knowledge. That means sometimes starting in a place that for me it's super crazy, like compliance. But then when you start talking with people on compliance, like that makes completely sense. That it's about the behavior of people within the organization. So understanding that and not being, from my point of view, obsessed with the idea of creating a behavioral science unit, but creating a culture of behavioral science, it's way better. Because, I get a lot of, now less, but when we started the unit, a lot of people ask me, do you think every company should have a behavioral science unit? I was like, no, not per se. If it brings value, of course. But you can bring the knowledge of behavioral science without having a unit. You get everyone to understand behavioral science and have designers, marketers, the people in data. We have a behavioral science approach. That's great. I think it's harder, but if you can get the company to transform to a behavioral informed organization, like it says, that's great. You don't need a unit. So it's more about what's the opportunity that you have. If I were the person to create or not create a unit, see the opportunity and understand the resources that you have. We were super lucky. Like in 2018, our former CEO, current chairman, thought that this was important, and he decided to create a unit. So it was like really top down. But you're an organization, and you have to find all resources to say, I need 2 people to create this behavioral science unit. I think it's way more effective than use of that time if you're focusing on a problem and try to find behavioral solutions to that problem. And then we can grow and name it and shape it as a unit. But first, try to bring the insights to the organization. And you have like plenty of spaces like compliance, human resources, cybersecurity, risks, product, marketing. All those places are a good place to start if you have the right sponsor or stakeholder.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've learned over the years of talking to different people like yourself and different organizations and hearing the stories of those journeys that having that advocate at the top, as high as we can get, right? But especially if it's a CEO that absolutely believes in it, or a CMO, or a whatever, but somebody that has enough influence in the organization to fight for the team, and whether that's a formalized team or otherwise, but that approach is really key to getting some of those initial projects moving and being able to show the value that behavioral science can bring. So for one, let's say, to those who are listening that have that power in the organization, knowing that that team needs you to be the advocate is one thing, right? And if you believe in it, what can you do to help nudge that along, formalized program or otherwise? And if you are lower down and you're a big advocate for this, who can you convince that's like one step above you that can then convince one step above them? Like, what can you be doing to help kind of grow that out? And knowing that it's not, like you said, it's not just that the field has talked a lot about not being the tool in the toolbox anymore, right? It's not just like tighten the language at the end. It's not the little adjustment. Those still matter, but we want to be further back in the conversation and thinking about behavior as that lens, that filter that everything goes through. But you got to start somewhere, right? We can get those wins and kind of go from there.
But I think it's important. When I was saying that we were leaving the last mile to be more in the strategic part, like product definition, it's because we built within the organization trust, so they trust that we are doing a good job, and we are not completely leaving that last mile. And it's something that as well that when I'm asked about why we are successful, at least in terms of resources, that we are growing, we have like a really big team and working with behavioral science compared to other organizations. And for me, it's understanding the KPIs of my stakeholders and fighting and measure them. If you create a behavioral science unit with an insights-based approach, you can only get so far. Right? It's always nice to have insights. Hey, this about how people decide. But if you understand that the KPI of your sponsor, it's whatever, and you fight for that and you measure, and at the end you say, hey, I measure my intervention versus the control in your KPI. That can be, savings, or cybersecurity, or talent and culture, hiring of different kind. If you can show your impact, you are safe. And I believe that sometimes we forget that. We are too proud of what we do, and we look inside. It's like, look how clever I am. I bring these super nice insights. Okay, but are they helping to solve the pain points of your stakeholder or the organization? When it's just for you or for a small group of people to say, hey, they are really clever, with this idea. Has that idea come to a tangible or live solution? Is your final client using it, or is someone using it? I think those are the questions that we should ask ourselves when we create the unit, but as well when we decide to grow the unit. And as I said, sometimes we forget to understand the KPIs of our stakeholders.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, and like you said, I always go, whether we're thinking about looking at customers or internal communication, that if you only get one thing, if only one thing will come out of this, what's the most important thing? And like you said early on, if you're trying to prove that the work is worth it and that you should have the budget or the dedicated team members or projects, hire projects to work on or whatnot, understanding those KPIs. And if your boss was going to look good about one thing, what do they care the most about? And sometimes you just ask them what would be the dream, right? If we could prove one thing, or we could show some lift somewhere, what's a goal you really care about that would help you look good to your boss? What can we do to support it? And just, focus on that first and then move on kind of to the next thing. Whereas if you try to do everything, it's just going to be too murky to prove the value.
And actually, if you have these kind of conversations, It can take you to nice places in the sense that you can reframe, as I was saying before, business challenges. I remember this case that we were working with the loyalty team. And I said, hey, we really like what you're doing. We would like you to help us with increasing the engagement of our loyalty program. I was like, is that really the KPI? What is the loyalty program about? It's about people using more of our products. In this case, was like our credit and debit cards. And we're like, okay, actually, this is a means to an end. You don't want people to use more the loyalty program. You want the loyalty program for people to use more your credit card. And that implies two underlying behaviors. That's like people stop using your competitors' credit cards or migrating from cash to credit card. So those are the behaviors you want to work, and those should be your KPIs. Although at the end, what you want is to get the engagement ratios up and so on, and of course the number of active credit cards growing. But if you can map like the different behaviors to the KPIs, it can help you to actually tackle the real problem. Because if not, you are starting with the wrong foot. If I would have just the infographic that I want to help increase engagement with the program, would be okay. Let's start sending, emails from people saying thousands of people are using it, like so or whatever else. But now the conversation is about something else. It's why people is using our credit card, how the loyalty program is pushing this motivation, or it's not. I mean, we should understand that. And how is the whole ecosystem of the decision? And that radically changed our approach. It was not just a small thing anymore. It was about working with the marketing team on the campaigns, how people are perceiving the value that we give through the promotions of points, how the program is structured. Is people perceiving that's easy to grow through a program, or it's not? Are people frustrated because they're not getting enough the points? So all those questions came because we were able to talk about the KPIs and challenge how they were focusing those KPIs. So maybe I'm too intense with the KPI thing, but I believe it's important. At least it got me here. So hindsight bias.
Yeah. I was thinking while you're talking, so I used to run a marketing department at a financial institution, before I went fully into, behavioral economics. But you you're always using it even when you don't have terms for it. You just, you kind of, find that. So, but I remember our loyalty program and, trying to increase engagement. And one of the perks, right? So it was this particular loyalty program was about debit versus credit transactions and trying to get people to swipe the card a certain number of times. So you hit, each month, so you get a special rate and whatever. And, but it was all about trying to get people to switch and do more electronic purchasing, versus other things. And one of the big perks and like rewards that you got was a free box of checks, which you don't want people to be using checks. That's the whole point, right? So we're taking them off of it. It was really expensive to give everyone a free box of checks compared to some other rewards that they would rather have. And it's like, why would we do this? This makes no sense. But it was that, had always been that way. This is the thing that we've always given people. And some people higher up that had been with the organization before debit cards and things like, no, everybody needs checks. Like, no, but they don't. Like, this is just a thing I don't even want. And actually now it's more of a fraud and security risk because we have just boxes of checks sitting around in houses everywhere. So we're able to get rid of that as a benefit. Like, people didn't really want it, and it was expensive, and we can invest in something else. But when you step back and you think, well, that makes no sense, but you have to look at the bigger picture, like you're saying, right? So if we understand and think about the behavior, who are we talking to? What are we wanting them to do? If we take everything away and we were going to start fresh, if we were going to design a brand new program, how would we do this in the most effective and efficient way? You've mentioned a couple of times that you have a large team. Can you share a little bit about one, how big is this large team that y'all have there? And I guess going over that 6 years, who'd you start with? What are some of those really key roles that you think are important if you were going to start a new team? And this is kind of a couple questions in here, but where'd you start? Where have you gotten to? And if you were giving advice to people looking to build a team, what do you think are some key roles that they should be thinking about?
Okay. So, from time, my answer it's not super accurate. Up or down 2 or 3 people, but we are around 45 internal people. And then we have external consultants working with our teams. And that adds up to 100. So this was not always the case. As a disclaimer as well, I have to say that a lot of those people work in Mexico. The Mexican team grew a lot. And because they were able to go to every single department within the organization and find opportunities to work with them. So while some teams have decided to work on specific, or because of the context, they decided to work in specific areas, the Mexican team working with human resources, with risk, everyone. So they grew a lot. But the thing is that in 2018, we were like 5 people just in the global team. And now we have, I would say, like around 12 in the global team. Then people in Spain, and Turkey, in Peru, in Argentina, in Colombia, Mexico. So it grew because structural elements, like the bank is structured by countries. So we have local teams. I know some other companies, they will have this centralized unit. We don't. We have like this central unit that that's the global team, but we have local teams. So that actually increases the number of people that we have, but as well as finding and getting all those opportunities. And again, the different teams, it was not, they started with 5 or 6. Most times they started with 1 or half a person in that team. So it has gone through the process of showing value. Again, like what's your KPI, what's your impact, how you are ensuring that the KPIs of the organization, the main ones, are boosted because you are there. So that has been key to us. But again, sometimes I'm asked, hey, everyone should have like a unit like yours. Like, again, no. It serves our approach. And because we are project-based, and that was part of this structural element. So it's because of the countries and as well because of the projects. Because we are an agile organization and we want to be part of the projects. We want to have people that are part of those projects. I don't want to work as a small unit of experts doing this one project per year. I'm in like 100 projects at the same time. That's why we have 100 people, because at least we have one person per project, more or less. So if I were to start from scratch on another company, I will try to, first of all, see, as I said before, where you are sitting and what's your relationship with other teams and how you're going to be delivering your value. Because that shapes everything. If you're in an agile organization that you're going to be working basically on projects, you need a lot of hands. Think about how you can solve all the demand that you're getting. And with that, this again is hindsight. I would start thinking of the different profiles that you need. Because at one point, we realized that we were growing because we were kind of cloning. It's not exactly cloning, but basically cloning the profile. It was just like our behavioral experts many times. But then we said, hey, maybe we should have more people that are specialized on experiments. So we should get people from experimentation. Or there's like this topic on data, and we need more people that know some behavioral science on data. As well, that makes sense because we did not grow because we hired a lot of behavioral science experts, but we recycle. I don't know if the concept is saying in English, like when you recycle someone, means that you are retraining them, reskilling them. I think it makes more sense. So if you think about that, it's not about getting someone that's super expert. So I'm getting someone who is has a strong perspective on business and then trade out behavioral science, or someone that's coming from data or marketing and trading them. That was done and structured in the beginning, but now we are working on actually something that we're working today. It's on the profiles that we need and the roles that those people should have. So should we have like behavioral experts and business? So like behavioral business experts, something like that, or behavioral experimental experts, some of the fields, cybersecurity, HR. So I know this is like far away on the road when you are like 2 or 3, but when you are on maybe over 5 or 10, start thinking if you want to have like 10 people doing the same thing, and you have all of them to reach to everyone within the organization, or you want to have like different profiles and start specializing. So maybe one person is going to do all the audits because it's someone coming from market research and knows well how to link those two worlds, where you're getting someone from the business so he or she knows a lot about products. So you're going to train them to get on the nuts and bolts on how products are built. Again, because I said that we will getting people and reskilling them from all around the organization and even from the outside. When we were hiring people, we are hiring people. We want them to understand behavioral science, but that's not the key skill. Key skill is about, are you able to understand and challenge the business? If you have gaps in behavioral science, I will train you to do that. We are good at that. We have like lots of experts within the organization, but sometimes it's hard to teach them about how a project works in a company that works with digital experiences. So all those elements for me are key. And again, it's hindsight. I would have done differently, but what we have now, and we are moving and learning from that and iterating the way we structure the teams.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, bringing it full circle to what we were talking about before with the design team or whatnot, if you have a bunch of people that really know behavioral science and then say, okay, go do something for the compliance team. And the compliance team is looking at you like, you don't know any of what we do. You don't understand our problems. You do not get. And the questions. So sometimes in behavioral science, it is good to ask the dumb questions, right? Because of the things like, why are we giving a free box of checks? That makes no sense. Right? To be able to come from the outside, there is value there. And really understanding what is possible, where there have been problems before, where there are some opportunities, where you're having a bunch of friction, or, what would be the biggest lift for a first project, and having that internal advocate that totally gets the department and what it needs and how it can be helpful. And then you layer in that behavioral stuff, and it has this good synergy between those groups that then can be a spark for that team to then want to learn more about behavioral science. And then it goes to the next and the next and the next, versus, if it's the wrong project or the wrong behavioral person that goes into that one team and it doesn't quite land, then, you've potentially burned some bridges that'll make it much more difficult in the long run to get them to buy in, because they'll say, we tried that behavioral stuff once, it didn't work. You don't get us. It can't happen here, right?
Yeah. Being able to have the right conversations, and the right conversations are not about behavioral science. And part of the things that I do is that I'm the person working for the behavioral science, behavioral economics team in payments. And I like to say that when I'm there, I'm not Quique from behavioral science or behavioral economics. I'm Quique from payments who knows about behavioral science. And that changes the thing, because my main focus is about payments or savings or whatever programs that you are involved in. And I should know a lot about that, because guess what? PO or the PM, they don't really care about behavioral science per se. They may find it interesting. They can read it when they are home, but they are focused on how they solve the problems. And you should be able to bridge the gap between what you know and what's useful for them. So you get people that they are to focus on the, we said that before, like the insight or the behavioral science per se, while they are super smart and they could add a lot of value, if they don't find the right opportunity, it's like you said, you're going to burn that bridge. And normally they don't open that for the second time. Like, okay, it was nice. Thank you for coming. We are doing something different. Right. We'll call you later. I mean, normally people is polite. I'm like, we'll call you later. We are not at the stage now which you can help us. But normally they are always in the stage and we can help them because we can help them every stage.
Yeah. For sure. Right. There's still humans involved everywhere and decisions being made. Right. So there's a spot for us there. Well, as we go to close out our conversation, I'm curious if you have, so you talked a bit about social norms, of course, and we talked about various different aspects and concepts from behavioral science along the way. If you were going to advise people of one, like a key concept or a couple, right, that you think come up a lot in those internal conversations, areas where, if you really think about and understand motivation or think about framing and how you say something or, lead with that social proof, social norms, are there a couple concepts or one that you think is a really good go-to as you're looking to build out a team?
Okay, so as a concept, I would say the thing that I use the most is things really with cognitive overload. But if you think it's a simple way, it's like everything with behavioral science. I mean, it can be simplistic. Like cognitive overload, there's just like give a lot of options. But that means way more than that. So when I bring in that to the conversation is cognitive overload. Actually, it's something that other people use, like the UX designers. What would we with cognitive overload? So people will have a lot of options. Well, it can be many things. They can have like too much information or too many options. Or the options that they have, they cannot compare them because you have like 6 options that are really easy to compare. You don't have overload, but you have like 3 with 10 different dimensions they have to compare and they're not comparable. They have cognitive overload. So it's about how we think about the process in which people is understanding the information that's given and the micro decisions that go through the funnel. So if you work in anything related with corporate business, it's there. But you need to think about it. So if I take that for the thing that I use the most, probably the thing that I'm taking most credit within the organization is when I brought this idea of the Rubicon model. When I was doing the LSC master, I was taught that model. I never thought it would go so far, but it helped me a lot because I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically dividing the goal setting moment from the goal striving. So we talk a lot about savings. I was, hey, you need to think where your client is. Why? Because if you start like throwing social norms, whatever message you want to them, but you don't understand if they are in a goal setting or a goal striving, you may be actually doing something that's going to backfire. Why? Because if you're in the goal setting, you need to help them to understand why this is important. Feasibility and desirability. So work that is on the concept that this is important and you can do it. But they already know that. It's like when someone is telling you that you need to go to the gym and you know that, but you don't have the time or you don't find the opportunity. So you just get more frustrated. And that's something that the past needs to be for telling people you need to say. And when we do interviews, I say, I know that. Stop telling them to say, just like it's really hard. So it's not a goal setting problem, it's a goal striving problem. So maybe the message should be different. I know it's hard. Let's do baby steps. No, let's do something that's simpler. So this idea of the Rubicon model that I thought it was like really simple when I explained that, actually is really appreciated by the different teams because it helped them focus on what's really happening. What's the behavior they want to change? It's about people wanting to change that they can, or because they think that this change is not worth it. So those two concepts, I would say, are the main things that I use.
Yeah, I love it. And really, really great points. We haven't actually talked about that separation of the, like you said, the goal setting and striving and whatnot. So thank you for pointing that out for everyone. I'm sure a lot of people are going to go be looking more up on that and looking for how they can be separating that out. So thank you so much. For everyone who is now so excited to learn more from you and to connect and, follow what you're doing, what's their best path to follow your journey and maybe to connect with you?
If you want to contact me on LinkedIn, so it's easy to look for Quique Belenguer. If you are adding me as a contact, please write in your note so I know that you're on here, because I get a lot of requests from random people. But
yes. Say, I heard you talk to Melina on the Brainy Business and you said.
I was someone who's interested to behavioral science. Because if you're interested in behavioral science, I'm always happy to connect. Just, I don't accept all the random people that try to contact me through LinkedIn.
Yes. There's some serious issues in those LinkedIn connections, to be sure. So perfect. And we will, of course, link to that in the show notes to make it easy for everyone. So thank you again, Quique, for joining me on the show. It was really, really delightful to chat with you today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you again to Quique Belenguer for joining me on the show today. What got your brain buzzing in today's conversation? For me, I really love how Quique and his team have been testing, iterating, and learning within their departments throughout the years. As we talk about often in behavioral science, it isn't just a tool you pick up out of the box at the end to tighten a bolt or two. But human behavior should really be considered at every aspect and phase, whether it's in internal communication or how you create your materials, where you pitch them, how you learn from them, and everything in between. There's always an opportunity for being a little more thoughtful. I also love that he shared about how their initial instincts to be the internal thought leaders and share their expertise hasn't been as effective as including people in the experience and helping them to shine along the way so everyone can grow together. And it's okay to start with some go-to concepts to get that conversation going, whether it's social norms or understanding aspects of motivation, framing, or whatever else resonates with you. You have to start somewhere, and you can always continue to learn and grow, especially as you get results within your organization. Remember, influence is something everyone has. In general, you don't need to wait for the title or the specific request to incorporate behavioral economics concepts into your work. You can be a little more thoughtful and share what you tried, increasing your influence and being a more thoughtful leader along the way. You may eventually get behavioral economist or behavioral science in your title or for your department, but you don't need to wait for it. And if you make your efforts more about leveraging an understanding of human behavior to improve the organization as a whole, I'm willing to bet that will all happen a whole lot faster. As we close out the show, don't forget about those show notes, which include links to my top related past episodes and books, ways to get in touch with Quique and myself, and more. It's all waiting for you in the app you're listening to and at thebrainybusiness.com/435. And thank you again to Quique Belenguer for joining me on the show today. It was a delight to chat with and learn from you. Join me Tuesday for another brainy episode of the Brainy Business Podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. Until then, thanks again for listening and learning with me. And remember to be thoughtful.
Thank you for listening to the Brainy Business Podcast. Melina offers virtual strategy sessions, workshops, and other services to help businesses be more brain-friendly. For more free resources, visit thebrainybusiness.com.